Imagine this. You're going through life doing your absolute best not to make any mistakes and to just be perfect. You're trying to be everything for everyone. You're trying to do everything. You're trying to step up and let there be no reason for anyone ever to think that you're not good enough or not helping out or just not doing anything. If that sounds more like reality than imagination for you, then you've probably experienced this. It goes quite well for a while. It lasts. You're able to keep up. You're able to juggle work, family, friendships, your relationship, all the other big demands that life puts on you. Until at some point, it doesn't. You get tired. You just can't be bothered. Often you might feel quite angry or resentful that these people are asking you to do this thing that you didn't really volunteer to do, but you ended up doing it anyway, and now there's this expectation, you can't talk about it. And over usually a prolonged period of a couple of days or weeks, or maybe even months, it all starts crashing down, and your biggest fear that everyone's going to realize I'm faking it and no one knows what I'm doing comes true. And suddenly, despite doing your best, despite trying everything that you possibly can, despite trying to make other people feel good about you, everyone is pissed off with you. And you feel like you want to kill yourself. How the hell did we get here? Hello, I'm Lewis and I make videos on codependency, attachment theory, and all sorts of other personal development topics. If that sounds like something you're interested in, then please click like and subscribe. So if you related to the way I started this video, it's a big sign that you've probably got some codependency issues to work through. And guess how I know? So I'm going to share with you my own story and the way that this happened to me in the hopes of really highlighting what it's like and the fact that it's not normal and it's not healthy and it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. So go on, let me give you my tale. I started as the perfect child. I come from a normal middle class household. My parents are, pretty good. I had friends, I had teachers, and I did really well at almost everything that I ever did. Sports, academics. I never actually played instruments, interestingly. They hurt my fingers a bit. But I excelled. Straight A's through school. But I always felt like I was keeping up this sort of act, and that the moment that I dropped it or I stopped trying to be perfect, in hindsight I can see it as that, I felt like everything would fall apart. But it doesn't really matter because I was a child, and so I could let other people take responsibility for me when I burned out or I wasn't able to live up to the expectations that I thought they had placed upon me, or that in some cases they actually had. So I continue on through school. I get to the best university in the world at the time, and I struggle a bit at the start, and it's pretty awful. The workload was a lot. But come my third year and my fourth year, I did a year abroad, so I had 4 years. I kind of got the hang of it. And while it was still a lot of work and a lot of effort, I was there. Graduated with a first, on to the next thing. Let me get a big prestigious job. So I got into the graduate scheme of one of the top FTSE 100 companies doing marketing. And I'm chugging along, My first year, it's hard. It's hard. But I managed to keep it going. I just sort of push everything down. I push my feelings down. I'm not in touch with my body. But I'm able to spin my plates. I take up a lot of responsibility for work. I end up picking up the slack of other people's jobs that they should be doing. But I will do that because I'm the project lead, so I should obviously be doing it because it's my responsibility. And I was in a dynamic where my manager was in America and I was the only person in the UK on my team. So it made communication and asking for help quite difficult because I didn't have a in-person personal connection with anybody, really, apart from my manager who occasionally came over. And that wasn't anyone's fault, that was just the dynamic of the team and the company at the time. But it was really hard, and I felt like quitting quite a few times, to be honest. But I stuck with it because it's a good program and I need to work to live, so. And I actually succeeded. It was hard, but I came top of my year in terms of like our performance rankings. And that made me feel great. I thought everything was fine. I can outwork my problems. But then in my second year, I get moved to a UK-based team, different brand, different responsibilities, different job positions, part of the graduate scheme. And now I'm working with people in person. And there's something about working in person with people that you can't hide as well. And so I come in, I bring my perfectionistic, workaholic, it's codependent, but I didn't know it at the time, self. And I chug along, you get a couple of weeks leeway, really get into the role, 2, 3, 4. And then I was given my first big thing to deal with. It was a performance review of our key project from the previous year, which wasn't going necessarily as well as we wanted to. So it was a big deal, it was politically significant, and it was challenging for me. It was a new skill set that I hadn't developed. And I laid out the time frames, I planned it, and then I started doing it, and I just couldn't do it. It was one of those things where you either know how to use the program and how to look at the data and the history of the project, or you don't. And I didn't. But I tried, and I would work evenings, weekends, hours trying to do this. I didn't tell my manager, didn't tell anyone else I was working with, but it didn't get any results. And so what my manager saw was, here's Lewis, he's kind of tired, I don't know what he's doing every day, and he's not delivering the actual one thing I need him to deliver. And she was pissed. Not in an inappropriate way, she was very professional, but she was angry with me. And I felt awful. I was working my socks off. I was working really hard. I was giving my absolute best. I was trying so hard. But it didn't work. And she was angry with me, and I was trying so hard, and it felt so unfair. And the worst part about it was that she was right. She was right to be angry with me because I wasn't working in a healthy way. And really, I was trying to sort of implicitly put all of my difficult problems, asking for help, being vulnerable, onto her. I was acting codependently. And again, I had only just really started getting therapy. I'd started the foundational program to become a counsellor. But codependency wasn't something that I really knew a lot about. But I was exhibiting many of the symptoms for it. Perfectionism, a lack of being vulnerable, detached from my own emotions and how I'm actually feeling, people-pleasing and prioritizing the needs for others. The whole thing. And I think the tricky part for me was recognizing that this was a failure. That me working hard, trying the best I could, being perfectionistic and not asking for help was failure. And I understood it from a needs perspective. I wasn't looking after my own needs. I wasn't sleeping enough. I wasn't resting enough. I wasn't doing the other activities that enrich me and enrich my life. But it felt awful that at work it looked like I was failing when all I was doing was working. But the reason I was failing is because I wasn't being honest. I wasn't being honest. I wasn't being honest with myself about how I felt and what I need and what I needed to do. And I wasn't being honest with my manager about how much I was struggling. And I was really struggling. I didn't tell her I've been working evenings. I didn't tell her I've been working weekends. I didn't tell her that I didn't know what I was actually doing because I assumed she wouldn't want to help me. How presumptuous is that? It's literally her job, especially when I'm brand new into the role. It's her job, but I was taking responsibility for how she could potentially react to me if I was vulnerable and asked for help, which is really protecting myself, because if I never ask for help, I can never get rejected. in a healthy workplace with relatively healthy people, that's not the way to go about it. And I think also why she was so angry with me was not just that I wasn't looking after myself, but that in failing to communicate my struggle and ask for help, I ended up inadvertently and implicitly, and I didn't even realize this, I ended up dumping my work on her because I wanted her so badly to just swoop in and take care of it and sort everything out. But of course she can't do that. That's not her job. She's got her own to-do list. And that's another symptom of codependency, feeling like a victim and that someone else can come in and help you and solve your problems for me. Do my inner work for me. Do my work for me. It doesn't work like that. So you can imagine what my performance review was like 3 months in. It was one of the most difficult conversations I have ever had in my life. It was crap. But it was rock bottom for me, at least in terms of work, because I was so out of control. And fortunately, I was about 3 months into therapy, 3 months into this training program, and I gained the awareness of what was going on within me. And that, coupled with some very serious feedback of, you need to ask for help and trust the team and look after yourself. I had to change because the way I was doing things wasn't working. I couldn't perfectionistically just power through everything like I had the rest of my life, and that sucked. Because it worked well. It made me miserable, but it worked. But it wasn't working anymore. And, now, many months beyond that, I can really start feeling the difference that getting therapy, being in a supportive group, that doing the work on myself, and that taking those little risks to be vulnerable in work, especially asking for help, but in my other relationships, it's helped. And I'm no longer running around like a headless chicken trying to get something done that I just can't. So if you can relate to my story, I'm afraid to say there's a good chance that you're codependent, which is also probably why you clicked on this video, because you're aware. And so I just wanted to leave off with, what the hell can you do about that? And I think the most important thing is recognizing that you're going to need to hit rock bottom first. You're going to need to have to throw everything you've got and every current coping mechanism you've got until it does not work. Because only then are you going to feel ready to change. At least that was the experience for me, and that's been the experience of a lot of people I've talked to and that I've read into and researched who suffer also from codependency. So yeah, the worst the worst sort of brings out the best in a sense, and it makes you change. And I have a great sentence on this, which is, the pain of being the same becomes greater than the pain of changing. Because changing hurts. Changing really hurts. But when what you're currently doing is too painful to bear, that is the soil within which change can grow. And how can you change? Well, I think the first thing is to really get some support around you. Find a therapist, find a support group, something like Codependence Anonymous. Start going to workshops, start reading up books, do the work. And then the second thing is to actually do the process. And the process is a lot of grieving, a lot of anger. You really got to get in touch with yourself and feel those feelings that you weren't feeling for your whole life. Probably also one of the most difficult times in your life, so you don't want to feel that, because the pattern is, if I feel my feelings, they're unhelpful and they'll distract me from the things I really need to do. You've got to feel them. And then through that process, that messy, turbulent, difficult process of feeling and carrying around all this crap that you've been carrying the rest of your life and now being aware of it, you've got to be kind to yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and one of the challenges that I've dealt with. But it's different. And when you have self-compassion, things are different. In fact, one of the people I spoke to the other day said, everything is different now that you have self-compassion. And it's true. It's not easy. when you start doing this work. It's usually the hardest thing I've ever done. I've done quite a lot of hard things, but it does get a little tiny bit easier as you start building the habits and start getting more comfortable being yourself. I have started my journey of healing, and if I can do that, then so can you.